back to Bookmas. My name's Maddie if you're new here, and in today's video I'm going to give you book recommendations for your mom.
Have you seen such a beautiful sight? Everyone's feeling jolly tonight.
If you are a book lover and you want your mom to get back into reading, or your mom notices you've gotten back into reading and asks for some recommendations or wants to buddy read a book with you, here are some books that you guys can read together or that you can recommend to her. I'm doing this specifically so that you can have some family-friendly book ideas, some romances without spice, some thrillers that aren't super scary, but I will also recommend you some books with light spice options and maybe some thrillers that are more intense. I found myself wanting to make this video because sometimes when I read a book and I describe the spice level, I will say, don't recommend this to your mother. And from that, I kind of just came up with the idea to recommend some wholesome reads. I've had my grandma ask me for book recommendations, or my mom for recommendations to give to other people, and I like being the person to recommend books. But with this, I kind of picked books that are wholesome and also have a little more depth to them and maybe more high stakes, because I don't know if my mom would love reading about characters in high school. Again, I don't know, and some of these books the characters are young, but I tried my best to have a lot of different characters across these different types of books. So let me just shut up and get right into it. All of these books I have read, so if you have other ideas to recommend your mom, comment them down below. I just didn't want to recommend a book that I haven't read, because then you can't take my recommendations seriously. I divided these recommendations into categories. Let's start with the romance category with no spice to minimal spice. Okay, anything by Annabelle Monaghan. I just finished Summer Romance by her and I absolutely loved it. I've also read Nora Goes Off Script by the same author. This author talks a lot about how she makes the stakes higher in her books. The main character typically has kids, a mortgage, and is married or going through a divorce. And I loved both of her books. They feel like Hallmark movies. Then we have Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. I have an unpopular opinion. I loved this book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I would say it's higher stakes than a young adult book, and it's a unique situation where a movie star falls in love with a normal girl. That is so fun. That's giving Hallmark vibes again. Next we have Comfort Zone by Allison Specka. Allison is an indie author who I follow on Instagram. She has a bunch of different books out right now that any of them you can recommend to your mom. There's probably one spice scene in the book I read, but maybe a page and a half. There's not a whole lot to the story I read, but it was a quick read, wholesome. It's a good book if she wants to get back into reading maybe. Then we have Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne. Again, a book that nobody talks about, but I debated giving this book 5 stars. I think I settled on 4.5, but it is all about the main character finding herself and moving back to her hometown, and I love that. The narrator is younger, but you can find yourself at any age, and it was definitely a sweet story. I'm sorry I keep mentioning if the main character is a teenage girl or in her 20s or a mom or a little bit older. I just feel like a mom wouldn't want to read about high school business, you know, so I want to just clarify, but now I'm done talking about it. You can enjoy a book where the main character is any age. Then I have 2 books I want to recommend from Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World and Yours Truly. I gave both of those books 5 stars. And Abby Jimenez does not have any spice in her books. And then I have The Reunion by Kayla Olson, another underrated book where 2 childhood movie stars, or maybe they were more in their teens or 20s when they were both on a popular TV show together. They have a reunion where they have a reboot of the show, and I believe it's alternating timelines where you see them when they were younger and then them reconnecting when they're older. And my last romance book with no spice is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and anything by TJR is amazing. Okay, next we have literary fiction. First in this category, I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This is a very complex story. The two characters are so well developed. And if you're going to recommend a Sally Rooney book to your mom, I feel as if it should be this one. Definitely not Normal People. I don't know if our moms would like that trauma. And then of course we have Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I wish I could recommend you every single book by Kristen Hanna because I feel as if those are all good recommendations, but truthfully, I've only read Firefly Lane. However, I really enjoyed it. I loved the show. Maybe you could watch the show together after you both read it. Next, we have Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. I really enjoyed listening to the story. Super heartwarming. Then we have a very sad book, but if they want something deep and they really want to think about the writing and connect to it, this is not an easy read, but it is so worth it. They should read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Next we have Hotel Nantucket. I've only read a few books by Ellen Hilderbrand, but I guarantee your mom would love Ellen Hilderbrand's work. This book had every single element. I believe there was romance. There were ghosts in here. There was a mystery, found family, and everything came together perfectly at the end. Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. I saw Jodi has a TikTok and that's how she pronounced her name, so hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, Jodi. This book was amazing. Everyone should read it, not just your mom. You guys can read it together. It was also kind of a mystery, so I don't know why I put it in the literary fiction, but it's got a lot of different elements. And I read this in less than 24 hours. Again, with that, I'm sure anything by this author would be amazing. Next, we're going back to Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I'm recommending your mom Malibu Rising, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Daisy Jones and the Six. The last book in this category, again, I'm confused on the genre because the reason I loved this book so much is it literally had every single element, and that is The Change by Kristen Miller. A super satisfying read with a hidden message, you know. There's definitely a bigger theme here in this book. Now we're moving into my favorite category, thrillers and mysteries. I read so many thrillers. I just love how fast-paced they are. And maybe if your mom is getting back into reading or she's never branched out of her normal genre, you can recommend her some of these thrillers. First, we have anything by Frida McFadden, but the main ones I recommend are The Inmate, Never Lie, The Housemaid, The Teacher, and The Boyfriend. And we have some popular booktok books that actually live up to the hype. The Silent Patient, Gone Girl, Where the Crawdads Sing, slow at first but so good, The Perfect Marriage, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, and The Last Mrs. Parrish. Next, I have an author on here, just anything by Karen Slaughter. She is easily becoming one of my favorite authors in the thriller category. I've read Pretty Girls by her. I rated 5 stars, but this one is kind of disturbing and kind of gory, so don't recommend it if you don't think your mom would like that. I read Pieces of Her, which shows a mother's love, and then After That Night. Her books are longer and definitely more developed, or at least the characters are, and sometimes more disturbing, like I said. So just keep that in mind. They feel more like true crime books. Like the story's so thought out and sinister that it could be real, because sometimes you do hear about stuff like that, you know. Anything by Stacey Willingham. My favorite by her is A Flicker in the Dark. The Last Thing He Told Me, I think by Laura Dave, and it's a TV show on Apple TV. The TV show is really well done. Gray After Dark. This one is a little spooky, but another book you're not going to want to put down. Drowning by TJ Newman. As long as your mom doesn't have a fear of flying, this would be another good thriller. The God of the Woods. This one is slow and honestly maybe more literary fiction with a mystery element or side plot. I mean, it's supposed to be the main plot, but to me it kind of fell off, or I lost interest at least. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I never thought I would be recommending this to anyone, because guess what? I hated this book, but I'm choosing to be the bigger person because I've read a few books by Lisa Jewell and I do like her writing. I just didn't like the story in this one. I am the outlier here though. Everybody loves this book, so here I am recommending it. Next we have the Winter in Paradise trilogy by Ellen Hilderbrand. I listened to all of these as an audiobook and they were perfectly entertaining to me. Maybe after the first book it gets a little repetitive and boring, but definitely worth a try. But they are rich people drama mixed with murder. I don't know if that was the best description, but you get the point. Then we have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, another fast-paced thriller where I did not see the ending coming. All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This is the host of Crime Junkie, and if your mom is into true crime, this is a perfect read for her. Then we have Local Woman Missing. This one, a lot of people say this was predictable, but it wasn't to me. Then we have The Fury by Alex Michaelides. This is the same author as The Silent Patient. Next we have Romance with Spice, but the spice is not taking away from the plot. Bridgerton, obviously. I've read, I think, 5 books in the series, and I really like all of them. And to me, except for probably one book, they weren't as spicy as the TV show. The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. The narrator is kind of immature, but it's in a way where it's entertaining. And then also The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Love that book. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I'm kind of realizing I don't need to have a little spiel about every single book. I can just recommend you the book, so. Then we have Anything by Emily Henry. Anything. My personal favorites: Beach Read, Book Lovers, Funny Story, Happy Place. But you should also recommend People We Meet on Vacation because the movie is coming out for that one before any of these other adaptations. So that can be a fun activity you guys can do together. Read the book and then go watch the movie. In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. A fun holiday read would be Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. Then we have a funny recommendation, but you know what? I don't care. The Idea of You by Robin Lee. This is Harry Styles fan fiction. And now there's a movie about this book with Anne Hathaway and the guy from Purple Hearts, Nicholas something. He's also in Red, White, and Royal Blue. And the movie is so good. I've had people who haven't read the book tell me that they love the movie, and that's all I have to say. Okay, for the next 2 categories, I don't have as many recommendations just because I don't read a ton of memoirs. And honestly, I don't read as much fantasy as I thought I did. Or maybe I just haven't read a lot of fantasy that I would recommend. The 2 very popular fantasy books that I would recommend: A Court of Thorns and Roses. I would recommend the entire series, and there is a lot of spice in there. And then I have Fourth Wing is another one of my 5-star fantasy reads. There's spice in the first one and a lot of spice in the second one, which is Iron Flame. Other than that, I don't really have any fantasy books I would recommend. Then I have a dystopian one, which is The Grace Year. Read this in 24 hours. Loved the message. And also I included The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the Hunger Games prequel about Buzzcut Snow and Lucy Gray. And although the Hunger Games series is more young adult, this book felt more mature and the writing was good. So maybe your mom can read this and then read the Hunger Games, or at least watch the movie because the movie was good. Okay, memoirs: Spare by Prince Harry, Finding Me by Viola Davis, Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, Know My Name by Chanel Miller, When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi, and Eat, Pray, Love. I did not love this book. I'm so sorry, but maybe your mom can give it a try. Hopefully these recommendations are helpful, and let me know which of these books your mom loved. I hope you guys found something that you can read together and discuss. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're new here, please like and subscribe down below. I'm posting a book video every single day for the first 12 days of December. Bookmas, you know, and I hope you guys will stick around. See ya!
oh, oh.